Alright, so I'm back with another variation of my Umori enchantment deck. This time we're going to try Jeskai. So I'll run through the deck quickly. So we're playing 2 copies of Birth of Meletis. We're playing 4 copies of Omen of the Sea, just to kind of dig towards our finishers. We're again playing 4 copies of Banishing Light, just as a way to kind of remove planeswalkers and other non-land permanents that are really difficult for us to deal with. We're playing 4 copies of Omen of the Sun. We're playing Sanctuary Lockdown, which gives all our humans +1/+1, and we can also pay 2 and tap 2 untapped humans to tap a creature our opponent controls. So in terms of humans, Omen of the Sun generates humans as well as Outlaw's Merriment. And then we're playing a lot of spicy 1-ofs. We're playing a 1-of Mirror Maid, which allows us to copy any artifact or enchantment on the battlefield. So it does not say an artifact or enchantment that you control. So we can also use this to copy our opponent's artifacts or enchantments. But for the most part, sometimes we might want to copy another Merriment or a Banishing Light or anything for that matter. I think it's quite useful. As for other 1-ofs, we're playing a 1-of Angelic Exaltation. So whenever a creature attacks alone, it basically gets exalted. So it will get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures we control. We're playing a 1-of Renaissance Mission. So this is just another incidental card value engine. Whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to a player, we get to draw a card. So we always want cards that allow us to draw cards, and just so we always have action. We're never running out of things to do. Our other card draw engine is Whirlwind of Thought. We're playing a 1-of that. So whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we get to draw a card. And again, we are a Fires of Invention deck because we can really utilize the extra mana that we have when we're not paying for our spells. Another spicy 1-of is Street Riot. So as long as it's our turn, creatures we control get +1/+0 and have trample. So if we're up against another deck that's kind of going wide or chump blocking, this can really push the finishing damage through. As well as we're playing Kiora Best the Sea God. So we can get an 8/8 blue Kraken with hexproof, and mode 2 basically just most of the time outright wins the game. And then if we do get to the 3rd mode, we can gain control of a permanent an opponent controls. And then we're also playing Shark Typhoon, which we can cycle, but for the most part I found this card to be a lot better if you just cast it in this deck, because everything in the deck is basically a non-creature spell, so we're always going to get multiple sharks, and we're just going to generate a lot of value from it. On the early turns you can cycle it, and then on the later turns playing it for 6 just really generates a lot of value and just closes out the game really quickly. And then we do have the land base as well, which I won't go through, but I'll quickly show. It's a pretty standard land base. So let's play some matches and see how we do. I'm just going to take a sip of water here. So we're up against Smiley JD99. And they're on a Karuga deck. So I'm assuming they're a Fires of Invention deck. So we're going to see the typical culprits, some Teferis, might be a Cavalcade version, probably going to see Kenrith. So opponent's taking a while to decide if they want to keep their hand or not. So maybe I'll do some editing like I promised to cut out this dead air. That way you guys aren't just watching a blank screen. Alright, perfect. So our opponent is with us. And I don't really like this hand, so I'm going to mulligan. And this is fine. And we'll just put back an Omen. Okay, that's great. So now we can birth, get a plains. Next turn we can play castle, because we don't have a way for it to come in untapped. And we can Omen of the Sea. Okay, a blind unmoored ego. I wonder what they're going to name. Okay, we do not have that card in our deck. Although it is an enchantment, its third mode is not really relevant in this deck. It wasn't really relevant when I was deciding on whether to add it in the Mardu deck either. Just because the third mode, it returns a creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to the battlefield with an additional loyalty. Or if it's a creature, an additional +1/+1 counter. So I think just having it in the deck as a removal spell isn't good enough. So we may see Fires of Invention get countered. I'll keep the Mirror Maid. Not sure how good it's going to be, but we'll try it. Totally expecting this to get countered. Okay, it didn't. So I'm not sure what they have in their hand, or maybe they just don't have any plays, but in fact they did. Maybe they just drew that and they don't have any other plays. So here we can Umori, calling for enchantment. And then we can actually hardcast the Shark Typhoon rather than use fires for it.
Stop.
And the next turn we can actually copy our Shark Typhoon. Looks like opponent's just gonna scoop it up though. Yeah, just too much value. And they missed land drops, unfortunately. So on to the next game. Hopefully it's a little bit more exciting than what we just saw. Up against Regnard. And this hand is fine. It does not have any blue mana yet, but that's okay. If we draw Fires of Invention, all our problems are solved anyway, so I'm not too worried. Probably just going to pass the turn here. We're up against a typical mono blue draw go deck. Love how they're thinking. I know, I don't think there's much to think about there. Like, everything they have probably has flash. So let's see if... Oh, I was going to say, let's see if my assumption is correct, but they did not flash in a creature on the end step, so... Really hoping we find a Fires of Invention. Okay, still no counters. Okay, we'll attack first and see what they do. They were hovering over a spell, which makes me think they might have Brazen Borrower. Okay. I think I'm just going to try to play another Omen on their turn. Maybe they are a two-color deck and they're just drawing mono islands, but I don't think so. They have to counter something eventually. Otherwise we're going to start dealing 4 a turn, which puts them under a pretty good clock. Okay, pouncing Shore Shark. That's great. Now they don't have mana held up for a counter spell. So I really hope we dodge Brazen Borrower, because if they have Brazen Borrower and they just bounce our Merriment, and it's quite bad. Otherwise, sticking a Merriment in matchups like these that are heavy on counter spells, I think is quite good. Okay, we're still missing lands here. And I think we'll just resolve another Merriment. And we'll hold the fort for now. Okay. Based on what I've seen, I feel like they're a Thassa deck. Although this is not an ETB, it's when it mutates. These two are ETB effects. So we're going to get a little bit aggressive here. We're going to have to. These 3/1s do have trample, so if they block with the Seer, I'm totally okay with that. Okay. Okay, let's hope they don't have a counter for this. Although, maybe it's just better to Omen of the Sun on their turn. I think that is better. I feel at this point they must have a counter. Yep. So they get to keep this tap down as long as they control Dungeon Geists. And we're taking 7 here. Hopefully we start getting some 2/1s with lifelink off of these Merriments, because we are at 10 now and they have 7 power that's evasive, or 10 I should say. At least we got 1 lifelinker. And they're tapped out now, so let's get rid of the 5/5. And let's just do this main phase, because we haven't played a land yet. So we are looking for more lands. And I'm going to go ahead and I was gonna say just suicide this guy in for 2 life, but now that we've gotten rid of this Riddle Master Sphinx, I don't think we need to do that. An opponent's on 6 now, and we are gonna get 2 more random tokens, so feeling pretty good about this match. They didn't have any counter magic. Oh, okay, they just cycled a piece of counter magic. It's funny, my timing is always on point. Every time I say something, I just get proven wrong almost immediately. Alright, now for the next match, up against Delatao, or Delateo, depending on how you pronounce it. I'm going to keep this hand. Another thing I forgot to mention in the deck tech actually is because Umori is hybrid Swamp and Forest, or Black-Green, the only way we can actually cast it is with a Fires of Invention. So, people might have been wondering, you know, how do we cast this card? Well, Fires is the only way. Alright. So, I've seen this deck before. They're gonna... I was gonna say, they're basically gonna try to close out the game with this, and they have multiple spells to give it hexproof and whatnot. But now that they've played Linden, it looks like they're just a traditional life gain deck. So we're definitely gonna Shark Typhoon here. And we're gonna block a Hawk. We're already at 10, so we're in a bit of trouble. And they have Luris, which is quite unfortunate. So opponent just on a mono white aggressive deck. Here we do need to get rid of the Luris. Otherwise they can just keep recasting things. So it's unfortunate that we did not find another land. But we can Umori. And we're taking 3 in the air. So I guess we'll just play a Fires. And we'll cycle the Shark Typhoon. If we don't cycle it and we draw a land, we can play it. And we can get a shark. And anything further we play will get more sharks, which I think is better in the long run. Because if I cycle it now, I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to take that risk. Because I was going to say if we cycle it now, and we don't find another land, then we're in big trouble. Unfortunately, this land comes into play tapped, so it still doesn't help us in casting this. So it looks like we are going to have to cycle now. I was really hoping to cast this and get a shark. Yeah, see? Now we're in really big trouble. Because they're just going to keep playing evasive threats. But we have to do this to survive. Okay, great. We found a Banishing Light. That deals with the Archon, so lucky top deck. And we can start getting aggressive here. I guess we had an answer to the Archon anyways. We could have tapped 2 of our humans to tap it. But again, they could have a God's Willing or something like that to protect it, so I'm still glad we found the Banishing Light when we did. Here it looks like Linden is going to get suited up. Yep, with Sentinel's Eyes. And now that they're in combat, we can tap it. And they're still at 40 life, unfortunately, but I do think we're going to win this game. So here we can hardcast a Shark Typhoon. Okay, that was great. Now we can play Kiora Best of Sea God, getting a Shark, drawing another card. So we're really going off here now. And I don't even think I need to leave the humans back now. I'll use this ability. I feel pretty safe having an 8/8 hexproof back. We can also make a token to chump. So yeah, we really turned the corner here quite quickly. Okay. That was quite loud. Yep. So let's see what we find. And we're still heavily favored to win this game. Okay, that's not the worst. At least we get a shark and we get to draw a card. Now we have so many enchantments that we have to scroll through them. We're just clogging up the board. Poor opponent with only 5 lands, and look at us with the amount of lands we have. Yeah, that's fine. And let's scry. Even more lands. Make another token. Get some more tokens. The board wipes don't really affect us. Just the Outlaw's Merriment here is just way too much value. And now we're even going to steal one of their lands. And we're just going to win. We're going to close out this game. Opponent's at 1 life. Yep. Give them a good game. Doesn't really matter what we scratch at the top. And yeah, the deck really performed this game. We were under a lot of pressure. But in the end, even after 3 Shatter the Sky, we won, so that was great.